Do you want to get better at influencing other people and persuading them to your point of view? Whether you're in a professional setting or a personal setting, that's definitely a great skill to have. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips that will help you to be more persuasive regardless of the setting. Okay, so before we get to the tips, my name is Dr. Patricia Thompson. I am a corporate psychologist and executive coach. I also consult to organizations, helping them with things like leadership development and trainings, things along those lines. I also have a variety of online courses on topics like emotional intelligence, leadership, accountability, mindfulness, a lot of other ones. And you can learn more about me at silverliningpsychology.com. Just check out the links below to that. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment so that you'll be able to see future videos that I put out. Okay, now that we've covered those logistics, let's get into how to be more persuasive. So, obviously, or I think it's obvious that wanting to persuade others is something that's going to be something that a lot of us will want to do at some given point in time. And there are some tips that you can really start applying that will help you to be able to do it. And in the workplace or at home, if you're wanting people to adopt your ideas or see your point of view, then it really behooves you to learn the different ways to be more persuasive. Okay, so my first tip is one that's pretty straightforward, but I want to talk a little bit about why it's so important. And it's to present your ideas with confidence. Research actually shows that when you present an idea with confidence, people are more likely to believe in it. And interestingly, this is the case even if they've gotten information that suggests that you haven't had a high level of accuracy in the past. And so, when you want someone to be persuaded by you, make sure that you sort of embody someone who is confident. Put your shoulders back, speak with confidence, watch out for qualifying statements like, I think, or, or kind of, or sort of. Really make sure that you're making your point in a way that's confident. Something else that can actually also help you to appear more confident is to speak at a slightly faster rate. Now, obviously, there are limits to this. You don't want to come across like a used car salesperson or the person at the end of a medication commercial who's talking about all the side effects really quickly. But what they found is that when you speak more quickly, it doesn't give people the amount of time to think up counter arguments. And so they're more likely to be persuaded by what it is that you are talking about. So get your thoughts together, adopt, an aura of confidence, and use that the next time that you want to persuade someone to your point of view. Okay, the second tip that you want to use is to make sure that you're keeping in mind your audience. So a lot of times when people will try to persuade other people, what they do is they think about what would persuade me in this instance, and then that's the argument that they use when they're trying to persuade someone else. But the truth is, you might have a different worldview, or you might have different criteria that you weigh when you're making a decision relative to someone else. So what you really need to do is reflect back on the person, who they are, what seems to be important to them, and then craft an argument that's most likely to resonate with them based on what you know about them. So for example, if you are trying to persuade someone who is risk averse, then the argument that you would put together would be one that really kind of shows that you've thought about the risks. And you'll talk about the ways that you're mitigating risk. Or if you're trying to persuade someone who's really compassionate and people-oriented, then perhaps the argument that you'll use will be one that really plays up the positive impact that going a certain route would have on the people around you, and how you're taking the personal element into account when you're, advocating for your point of view. Or let's say you're trying to influence someone who's really visionary and innovative. Then maybe you might talk about, the upsides and the possibilities and the impact that going a certain route could have in the future. Or if you're talking to someone who's really data oriented, then make sure that you've done all your research and that you can present facts and data and supporting information, because that will be the sort of thing that that person is looking for. If you're trying to influence someone who's impatient, then you want to make sure that you're really efficient in presenting your point of view. Maybe speak quickly. If there's someone who wants you to get to the point, you might want to present things in a bulleted format. So again, they're able to get what they need, and then you can move on and allow them to make their decision based on what you're presenting them. So the main point here is, just think about the needs of your audience, what they're likely to weigh most heavily in their decision-making process, and then make sure that you press those levers as you are making your own case with them. Okay, my third tip is to present the pros and cons of your argument. So I know I said earlier that you should speak with confidence. I know I said that you should also think about what's going to influence the person that you're talking to, but you also want to make sure that as you are conveying your ideas, that you're not coming across as too biased or one-sided. And so if you only talk about the pros, the person, might be thinking, well, what about this? Or, no idea is perfect. She's totally ignoring this. What else isn't she telling me? So what you want to do is make sure that you're talking about the upsides, potential downsides. Obviously, you want to make sure that the upsides are more compelling so that you're making a stronger argument in that direction. You could also talk about the downsides and how you might navigate those or minimize them. But by giving a balanced argument, it doesn't look like you're trying to hide information, and it also lets the person know that you have had a thorough thought process in terms of your own point of view, and it gives them more information on which to base your decision, but also to trust that you have a good decision-making process. My next tip is to be likable and trustworthy. It's no surprise that we are more likely to be influenced by people who we like, people who we trust, and also people who we see as being like us. And so what that means is that you're going to put yourself in the best position to be able to persuade and influence people if you have good relationships with them. Now, in every instance, you might not necessarily have the chance to cultivate relationships with people, but if you're in a workplace, then you should be someone who is constantly trying to build relationships, connect with others, be likable, be generous, be kind, all those other sorts of things. And don't wait until you want to persuade someone to try and do those sorts of things. I think people can feel when you're trying to butter them up. Instead, make it a general practice to connect with others, like I said, to be trustworthy, to be a positive person within your organization. And then when the time comes that you want to persuade them, they'll think of you in a more positive light overall, and they'll be more likely to want to listen to what it is that you have to say. My last tip is to use social proof. So you might be wondering, what is that? Well, so think about the last time you were on Amazon or any other website really where you're trying to buy something. So I know that for me, when I'm on there, one of the first things that I do once I've clicked on an item that I'm interested in is that I'll look at the reviews and I look at what are other people saying about this. Do they have any problems with it? Do they think it's great? And I will base a lot of my decision on that. That's an example of social proof. Wanting to know that others are basically vouching for your idea or your product can be a very compelling way to get others to adopt your idea as well. So what are some ways that you can use social proof when you're trying to persuade others? Well, if you have something like a course or something like that you're trying to get people to buy, or some sort of product, then reviews obviously are a really helpful form of social proof. But if you're not in that sort of instance, then you could use things like, for example, client testimonials. For example, if you're trying to get a new client to work with you. For an idea, you could use research or data. That could be a form of social proof that shows that, research shows that what I'm saying is actually credible. You could also use case studies. So for example, if there's another organization that has perhaps adopted an idea that you're wanting to adopt in your organization and they've had a positive result, then you can use the case study as an example. You could also use information from, like if they're credible sources. So for example, Harvard Business Review says this, or Expert Y says that this is a good thing to do. And again, what you're wanting to do is just show that other people out there believe it's a good thing to do. Polls can be a good thing, surveys, 90% of consumers believe XYZ. That's another form of social proof. So just think of creative ways that you can also bring in the ways that other people who are similar to your audience believe in your idea, and that can be a really compelling way to be persuasive as well. Okay, so that's it for this video. It's not an exhaustive list for how to be more persuasive, but it'll certainly get you started down the right track for influencing others more effectively. Tell me what you think of the ideas in the comments, and as always, make sure to like, subscribe, click the bell, and reach out to me if you have questions about this video or if there are other videos that you would like for me to create. I'm Dr. Patricia Thompson, and I will see you soon.